Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And oh my goodness, are you in for a treat today? As I have another special guest. And her name is Misti Davis. Misti is the Chief People Officer at Elida Beauty. She's certified in HR with their SPHR, SHRM-SCP. I'm sure there's a lot more. Misti, I'm so excited to have you on the show. How you doing?
Hi, Bruce. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. Thank you.
I am so excited. We exchanged emails recently, and I was like, oh man, there's nothing like face-to-face having a conversation. So I'm glad to have you on the show. I'm excited to hear your story. But before we get into that, I want to always ask my guests if they want to share a brief highlight of their organization. And for you, Elida Beauty, would you share like who is Elida Beauty and how do you serve your customers?
It's a great question. We are actually a global division of Unilever. So I lead HR for North America, and you probably know our products and hopefully use them every day. So Elida Beauty, we make Q-tips, we make TG Bedhead, Noxema, Caress. Those are some of our products. We have a few more, St. Ives. So we're actually growing and bringing kind of our goal is to dust off some of these products that maybe you have nostalgia around from your childhood and bring them back and put them front and center and grow the business.
I love that. Yes, my wife has all of those products on her bathroom counter. She's like, Bruce, you need this.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Never can have too many Q-tips. So that's
you can
right?
never. That's exactly right. Oh my gosh, that is so great. This is fantastic. Hey, well, let's get to know you. Who is Misti Davis? I would love for you to share your story. Like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into HR and leadership?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think everyone that I've spoke to in HR, never the path is a straight one, right? So mine's pretty straight, but I did grow up in Louisville. So in the DFW Metroplex, I was a fighting farmer.
Okay,
And
for those who don't know where Louisville, Texas is, it's what, about 30 minutes maybe north of Dallas?
yes, correct.
Okay, the Fighting Farmers. I love it.
And I worked for a veterinarian in high school. My goal was to be a veterinarian, and I was accepted to the Texas A&M biomedical science program, and that was, kind of my path. But after high school, I needed to stay close to home due to some personal reasons. So I ended up enrolling at Texas Women's University, and it was there that I met one of the HR professors at the time, Professor Sherry Taylor. And she is the one that encouraged me to pursue a career in HR, and just completely inspired by her. She taught her students how to network with the business community and lead projects. I think it was my senior year there. We actually led the SHRM-HR games out at Southwest Airlines. Yeah, it was Libby Sartain was the head of HR at the time. So that was a super cool experience. Okay. And so, yeah, so I think like since then I've known like this is my path. But originally, I was focused on animals, not people. But kind of a fun fact is about a month ago, I got to have lunch with Sherry and tell her, how she inspired me and thank her for helping me to dream big. So that was a really cool experience.
That's fantastic. I love that story because I do like to talk about mentors. It sounds like she was a great mentor. Straight path. You're right. Most people will say, I fell into HR. It's been not a straight path. And for you to be able to meet someone to steer you on that road, I love all of that. So the HR games, I was a speaker at the HR games just recently. How did y'all do there?
I think, well, honestly, it's been so long ago. I think we did well. We didn't win, but I think just the whole leadership experience of like running games and getting to meet the leaders, that's really what I took away from it.
Yeah, so, isn't that a great experience? I love speaking because then I'll meet the different students and they all have this like, do you remember, like, did you like have this thirst for knowledge? You're just like wanting to learn from different people and you get to see speakers and things like that.
Yes. And I think that's the biggest thing that I did take away from the program at TW was we would also go to the local HR conferences or to the Dallas HR luncheons, and it was all about like connecting in the community and building those relationships and seeking out mentors. And so that's really what was super helpful for me in the beginning, especially launching my career, was how to network, how important your network is. So that's a lot of what I took away from the program.
I love that. Networking is not easy, especially when you're just starting out
Yeah.
or you're joining a new organization. It's so hard. Hey, I would love for you. So let's just kind of pivot in here. I would love for you to talk about maybe a couple of mentors in your career. So you mentioned Sherry. And by the way, isn't that really cool to be able to go back and share with someone that's helped you get to where you are
Yeah.
today, a personal story like, hey, you really helped me. Isn't that cool?
Definitely. Yes. And she's almost like a mother figure to me too. So it's like having a second mom. So I love that. As far as other mentors, I've definitely had some amazing ones on my career. Someone who's still in the DFW HR leadership circle is Lori Bishop. And she actually hired me right out of college, or actually I was still in college, and she hired me for an internship. And at the time she was with Viking Office Products, and she's always been a source of inspiration for me. She encouraged me to bring my best and, not to just settle in my career, but really to shoot high. So she's somebody that I'm actually still in touch with her on LinkedIn, and I've had lunch with her over the years. So she's been a mentor for sure. And then I also had a couple of inspirational leaders when I worked at ADP several years ago. I went through a point in my career where I stepped back into an individual contributor role because my daughter was in middle school, and I just felt like I needed to spend more time focusing on my family. It's interesting, right? Because when you're in an individual contributor role, and you have these leaders that recognize that you have the ability to kind of step up and do more, they both paved the way for me to be able to step back into leadership, but also to still be a good mom. So, I think that was really important for me because I was able to see, I'm able to do both. And they provided the support and the guidance and the mentorship for me to do that. I feel like that was a bit of a pivotal point in my career where, it sparked the desire for me to continue to grow and develop and to help others too. Because I think I'm still in contact with a lot of my team from there online. And, I just I think the support from that experience was valuable.
I love that. So I wrote these two words down: step back. And
Yes.
I think that's so important. I'm glad you're sharing that. If you have your pen out, your journal, you need to be like taking notes. This is so good because I think many times as business leaders, as business professionals, we always feel like we need to be moving forward, right? We got to go. We got to continue to wherever we're going, we need to be moving forward. But sometimes it's okay to step back. I heard John Maxwell share a quote one time. He said, sometimes you need to give up to go up. And for you stepping back, you step back because of course, it's family, right? But you realize the importance of that. Talk about that just for a second. Do you remember that moment? Because I'm sure that wasn't easy, but yet it was an easy choice to make, but it wasn't an easy process to go through. But you knew the importance of that, right?
Yes. And I think too, back then, because this has been, several years ago, pre-pandemic, back then, being able to work remotely was unusual. So, having the opportunity to work for ADP at the time and work in a remote capacity, especially in HR, that was something that was rare. And so I think for those of us that were working moms, it was especially challenging because you're, not present physically as often as you want to be. And there was a lot of mom guilt associated with that. So I think, even though the pandemic has been significantly challenging for so many of us, I think there were benefits in the fact that there was the shift to say, the ways that we work can look different and we can create more balance in our lives. And so, but yeah, I think, and the other thing too, I learned through that experience is I have someone on my team now who's a working mom. And so I'm able to support her in a way than I was able to be supported, years ago. So I think that's something that is a positive for those that are, young in their careers now.
Yeah, I always share that a lot of times we go through experiences so we can learn what that's all about, so we can share that with others that are going to be going through it as well. Hey, I want to ask you, I mean, here you are, you're the chief people officer today. I mean, you didn't start out there, right? It's been a journey to get there. I always talk about finding your lane, like your purpose, your calling. Was there a moment, Misty, when you said, you know what, I've been doing this for a long time. I've really found my lane. Or have there been just moments of like validation because you kind of were on this straight path?
I think definitely like moments of validation for me. And, even since grade school, I've felt comfortable in a leadership role. So
Mm,
I think I think that's, a capability that you develop over time. But I think
mm,
it's something that I've gravitated towards. But I think, again, like without the mentorships that I've had throughout my career, I definitely wouldn't feel as confident
mm,
as I do now. And especially this role, this is definitely one of the, if not the most difficult role that I've had in my career. And I think just the ability to accept the challenge and, do the hard things every day is a result of the encouragement that I've had throughout my career. So I would say there wasn't one pivotal moment where I was like, oh, I know, like I'm going to be a CPO one day. Like, I mean, that was a cool thing to strive for, but it was never like my necessarily like end goal, or
yeah.
I think it was more about the journey.
Yeah, I love that. I heard Jim Rohn once say, if you want more, you need to become more. And so you may have had that down the path in the light saying, hey, I might be there one day, but that's not my goal. That's not my end goal. I'm just going to keep trying to grow as a leader. And I think that's the way most high performers are. They just keep becoming more.
Right. I agree. And I
Yeah.
think I talk about pivotal moments in your career. I think another one, I spent 2 years working for a nonprofit in Dallas, and we did after school programs. It was called Big Thought, after school programs in the Dallas Independent School District. And
Hmm.
that was a hard role too, because we got a grant to hire like 250 people one summer to start after school programs, the next year. And there were two of us in the HR team, and, just working for a nonprofit, you do a lot with a little. But the neat thing about that is it was very clear, like the impact that we made
Mm,
was, sometimes in HR, I think it's hard, right, to see
mm,
your direct impact, but that was probably the most clear impact of all of the roles that I've had. And so that, again, pivotal moment,
mm.
ability to connect the dots to, what I'm doing every day and how it impacts the greater good.
Yeah, that's fantastic, especially when you can see it. Because a lot of times you're right. HR is typically not a revenue driven vertical, right? And so therefore it's hard to see sometimes the impact, and to be able to see that it's so fulfilling. Hey, let's talk leadership. I mean, yeah, grade school leadership. I remember being the student council president when I was in the seventh grade, and I'm like, I don't know what it was. I just felt comfortable in that role. I always like to ask my guests this question, Misty. If someone says, hey, what is leadership? How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I think, because I've had great leaders and not so great leaders in my
Mm,
career. You kind of learn, right, from those
yes.
you work for. But I would say, to me, leadership is being right beside your team, like being there with them and understanding what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and then encouraging them to stretch and grow. So I've never been someone to like just pass an assignment. And, I'm like, typically that like, we're going to partner through this, even if you own it, I'm going to be there right beside you. I also think leadership is about fostering trust and psychological safety. I know that's sort of a buzzword right now, right? But
Mhm.
I think it's true, like creating an environment where, your team feels comfortable coming to you and sharing with you, how they're feeling, or if they have significant challenges going on either with their work or in their personal lives. And it allows them to be their true selves at work. And then, I think just getting to know employees individually as well,
Mm.
because again, like they could be going through things outside of the workplace, and it's really difficult to separate that from your daily work environment. So I think getting to know your team really well is important.
I think if there's anything we've learned in the last 3, 4 years, it's everybody has a story. I mean, we probably we knew that before, but we're more aware of stories now more than ever. I heard a story one time. John Maxwell always talked about the importance of walking slowly through the crowd. We're so busy with all the stuff we have to do. I mean, I know you have a to-do list a mile long, right? You can't get everything done. And so we're so busy trying to get everything done, we don't stop and try to learn people's stories. And I think that's one of the things. I love how you talked about learning from great and not so great. I've had both, and I've learned from both, and that's been good. And being be a good partner. Talk a little bit about psychological safety, though. I remember the first time I heard that term was at the HR Southwest conference. It was, I don't know, it's 5, 6 years ago. I think Tony Bridwell was doing a speaking session, and he brought up psychological safety. I was like, wait, what is this?
Right.
And the importance of that. How do you, I guess my question to you is, how do you know when when you are having success in your organization with psychological safety?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's definitely goes hand in hand with because I help to lead our DE&I program for Elida Beauty. And so I think, we do surveys, right? Like to check in with employees on how they're feeling about whether or not they feel included in the work environment, and, whether or not they feel like they're able to speak their mind and be accepted. So that's part of it. But I also think like, when your employees are communicating with you, that that they feel safe. If they're quiet or you're not hearing from them, then that's the time that you should feel concerned, especially like your high performers, because those, if they all of a sudden get silent, then there's a challenge. And if your employees are coming to you in the hard times too, if they're sharing something, personal to themselves. We've done some on our global community calls, we've done some kind of like roundtables with like our LGBTQ plus community, and like have employees share their experiences, and just some of the things that employees are comfortable sharing helps me to see that we're fostering that type of environment. So I think just creating those moments for employees where that they do have the comfort and know that it's a safe space.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. When they are communicating, when they're coming to you, when they are not afraid to share, I think that's a great point. I know there's people listening right now going, hey, you know what? That validates that we're doing the good things because people are coming to us. Or, hey, we need to make sure that we have our doors open and we're creating this environment for that. Love all that. Hey, I wanted to ask you, one of the things I enjoy whenever I'm getting to have a guest on the podcast is I'll do some research. And so I saw a couple of articles I wanted to ask you about. The first one was around you. I don't think you wrote the article. You might have wrote the article, but you shared an article around employee burnout, the biggest myth. But you had commented, when people feel inspired, motivated, and supported in their work, they do more work, and that work is significantly less stressful on their overall health and well-being. And so
Yes.
I'll talk a little bit about that, because I know that that's been a challenge for a lot of people over the last few years.
Yeah, and that resonated with me at the time. I pulled that out of the article, so it was a really good article.
Okay.
I wish I could take credit for that, but but no, it definitely resonated. I think there is this myth that if an employee's feeling burned out, just give them some time off, right? That it's all about the hours that they're working, and that they take a couple days and you'll be good to go. But that's not the case. We've learned through research that it's more than that. It's about the support they receive from their leaders. It's about if they're inspired in their work. We talk a lot at Unilever and Elida Beauty about finding your purpose. And I think it is about understanding, what is your individual motivators? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Why are you here? And if you're having a hard time connecting to that, then it's, your team and your leaders' role to come beside you and, discuss it and help you kind of re-engage. So I think, there is a misconception that burnout is just about the long hours that we work, but that's definitely not the case. And I've also seen in my career, when I feel supported, I'm going to give 110%. So just myself personally.
Yeah. I will tell you, I think a lot of us, I think that that's a popular topic because over the last few years, we were forced to do some different things. We were worked differently, whether it was remote work, whatever the case may be. And we all felt a little burnout because we weren't sure where to draw those boundaries. I felt like I was working more hours than ever when I started working from home more. And I just feel like that, I don't know, that's just one of those things that when people have that support, it just feels a little bit different. Like for example, when for me, I love moving people, right? So I'm in the relocation business, but I also love moving people through conversation, right? So and that's through networking with Dallas HR, being a leader for Texas SHRM, doing some of the different things I do. And because my company supports that, it allows me to do all that. But if they didn't support that and I was just in that one area, I might get burnt out. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. I agree. Yeah. Creating space for employees to focus on the things that do give them energy and
Mm,
inspire them. And I think like, especially because we're kind of, I would describe us as a startup division of Unilever. So we operate very much in startup mode. And so we're, constantly changing and the pace is fast and there's a lot to do all at once. And I think it is and leaders need to be intentional about
mm,
taking the time to pause and go, okay, are we allowing, our team to have that space to
mhm.
step into things that do inspire them? Because it's super easy to forget that and, just continue to push along and think everything's going to be fine.
So I'm curious, do you do anything special for your, I don't know, your team members to try to minimize that? Like, for example, I don't know, maybe it's socials or getting together for engagement, different things like that.
We're starting to do more. So
Okay. Yeah.
we're actually kind of creating a new ways of working and cadence. We've built Elida Beauty like very like spread out, right? So like we have about half the employees are based here in DFW, but many of our employees are spread throughout the United States and Canada. So it's not always easy to get us together in one place.
Hmm.
But we're creating opportunities to do that and kind of reevaluating our cadence. And we were all together last week in our office here in DFW, and we had celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month.
Mm,
And so super fun. We bought food from local restaurants, not just, kind of traditional Tex-Mex or Mexican, but we had in some, Argentinian empanadas and kind of mixed it up, right? And then played a game, Lotterito. I know I'm doing that. And then we had a little presentation on what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean. And
yeah.
so we had some, like ice cream that was, from, a local market.
Hmm.
And so things like that, where you take time to pause and you bring everyone together, create some fun space. We're definitely trying to do more of that. I think that is the one thing that, the pandemic did disrupt is
Mm,
we've done so much remotely or via like Teams. And so building back that connection is
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, that's good. I would have to say for us, it's kind of we're starting to do more as well. We're in that same frame. One of the things that we have a hard time with is that we have our office employees and then we have our moving crews, and our moving crews are always out. They can't, a lot of times get back to meet with us. So it's very hard to get everybody together. But our operations team has come up with a carnival day we're going to do at the end of October where they can bring their kids, and we're going to set everything up at the Armstrong offices and have a carnival. And I thought
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And
Yeah.
so of course they're asking me, Bruce, we need you in the dunk tank. I'm like, wait. But I
Great.
think doing things like that is like what we're talking about, right? It creates that support, that family environment, and people, they just, I don't know, they want to be a part of that. I love that. Hey, well, you also had one other article I wanted to mention, and that was around, I think it was around not making physical activity a priority. And when I saw that, I thought that's so important. For me, I started working out, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and it really changed my mental mindset. It changed so much, but the mental mindset was the main thing. A couple of questions. Number one, how do you make that a priority? And two, how about you? Do you work out, physical
Yeah.
activity? Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a slow learner in this area. I was definitely more active, several years ago. And then again, like being in a bit of a startup environment, you get in this habit where you sit, through meetings all day and you don't even realize that you're doing it. And then I have a daughter that recently graduated from college and, so moved her, different apartments every year and was lifting these heavy boxes and not paying attention to how I was doing that. And so I actually had a lumbar discectomy in March, which was a bit of a wake up call for me and has motivated me to invest more in my health and well-being. I bought a standing desk. I've, built breaks into my day. I'm definitely, doing things to build core strength. But one thing I think has always been a part of my daily routine is I enjoy walking at the end of my day. We have 4 dogs actually. And so
Oh, wait a minute. You have how many dogs? 4 dogs? Oh my gosh.
They're, under 12 pounds. So
Okay.
selling point to my husband is that equals 1 dog, technically. So they require daily walks. And I think that's a good motivator for me. And it does help me to that at the end of the day, kind of clear my mind. And so that's super important. It's hard in Texas in the summer, right, to get those walks in. And I've definitely felt that. But I also think it's up to us to make it a priority. Elida Beauty does a great job of allowing us to build time into our day to, if we need to step out to go get a workout in or, flex around that, it's available to us. But again, like we have to make it a priority. So that's something I'm trying to focus on now.
Yeah, I love that. A priority. That's the key. And I'm glad you shared that because there's some people that needed to hear that today. And you talk about walking. My wife loves to walk. I like to go to the gym early in the morning. I get my workout in, I'm done. And then she's not an early morning person. So she's like, hey, you want to walk later? I'm like, I already got my workout in. But I go with her because I want to support her. And that is another area where it's also great for mental mindset. And there's, but the word you said here that I want everybody to write down is priority. You have to make it a priority. And it reminds me of a story. Several years ago, I was playing golf with a CHRO, and we were at a retreat, and he was talking about all these amazing places that he's played golf when he's traveled and stuff. And I stopped him. I said, listen, you're a CHRO. You are very busy. How do you find time to play golf? How do you do that? He said, well, I schedule it.
Right.
And it just like that day was an epiphany. We just need to schedule it. So when you talk about making it a priority, we just have to decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to make physical activity, whatever that is that I do, a priority. And I just need to schedule that. What would you add to that?
And I think the back surgery, right? Like that was not a super fun experience.
No.
So I think anytime you have kind of a major health episode like that, you realize like, time is not on our side. So the longer you wait, the harder it is. And I think I was really like, even though it was not a fun surgery to go through, I'm thankful that it happened now instead of 20 years from now, because I do have a moment in time now to make a shift and, how I approach movement, every day. So I think that I would add, we always say we'll do it tomorrow or I'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow happens a lot quicker than we think. So just again, I agree. Priority is the word there.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I'm hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
As you share that though, I start thinking too. Here's another thing we need to think about, and that is giving ourselves grace when we can't go make that a priority, right? Because there's going to be, I call it seasons of life. There's going to be seasons of life where you can't be a volunteer at an organization because you have 3 little kids at home. Or you can't get your walk in because you just had back surgery, or you can't, and you just don't worry about that. You give yourself grace and say, hey, this is the season I'm in. I need to do the best I can with it. And then once I'm in the next season, I can do that, right?
Yes, I agree with you. Definitely. And I think, you know, especially those of us that are in HR, we're always worried about taking care of everyone else.
Mm.
And so we don't always put ourselves as a priority. So I think, yes, it's definitely a daily reminder.
Somebody asked me one time, like around my purpose. And so when I wrote my second book, Life in the Leadership Lane, I put my purpose in the subtitle, and it was around moving leaders to inspire and change the workplace, because I thought that I've been involved in this HR community through Dallas HR, through Texas SHRM for many, many, many years now. And what I've seen is most of the time business leaders, but in particular HR professionals, are so busy helping other people. I always my question is, well, who's helping you? And so that's where I'm kind of have this mission to come in and say, if I can somehow blow encouragement or say something or do something to allow them to help in their area, then it's all great. And so yeah.
I think that's
Oh
great.
my gosh, this has been so good. Hey, I want to ask you this last question before we shift here, because there's some people that are listening right now. They may be early career, they may be mid career, but they're saying to themselves, "Hey, I want to. I'm on a mission to continue to move towards whether it's a director or a VP or CPO. What is I don't know. Share maybe a tip, something that you made it a practice to get to where you are today. Maybe one or two things that the listeners might be able to take away."
Yeah, I think, you know, the one thing is don't be afraid to take risk or to step into a challenge. You know, definitely been in several roles that weren't in my comfort zone. And I think not being afraid to do that and
Mm,
have the support around you that you need to be successful. So that involves making connections in your community. So those will be
mm,
the two things, you know, step into a challenge, but definitely have the support around you to do that. You know, looking back in my career, I wish that I had maybe stuck with some of the roles a little bit longer than I did, because there was always this thought like, oh, the grass is greener and, you know, the environment across the street may be better. But, you know, the longer that you're in your career, you realize that, you know, no environment is perfect.
uh-huh,
And I think resilience comes with experience and the
mm,
knowledge, you know, of that. And
mm.
then again, like what's most important to your success is the team that surrounds you.
I love that. You're right. The grass is not greener on the other side. You have to be resilient. I always said, go back to whenever I joined Armstrong, 2004. So almost 20 years ago. Man, I'm dating myself here. I had two things that were important to me, and those were autonomy and surrounded by great people. So those are
Yeah.
the two things I was going for. And every time I got through different, I'll call it mile markers in my career, and I thought, is it time to stay or go? I go back to those two things. Like, do I still have autonomy and do you still have great people? Yep. Okay. Well, you just need to accelerate. And I think a lot of times as you share that, it's like, hey, you know what? I know the grass is not always greener. So do I still have what I need, the support and all of those things to get to where I'm going? It's so important, right?
Yeah, one of my favorite books, it's an oldie but a goodie, right, is by Daniel Pink. It's
Hmm.
Drive.
Oh,
And he talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose are the three
hmm,
things that someone needs to feel, you
hmm,
know, like inspired in their work. And that's always resonated with me because I
hmm.
feel that way also. So that's so true. Like, do you
Yeah.
have things where you are?
Drive. I think I have that in my library and my not read yet.
Oh,
So I sounds
no,
like I need to
definitely
pull that out.
one of my favorites for
Oh
sure.
man, that's so good. Oh my gosh, this is so good. You've given some great advice here today, Misty. Like so much. But I do like to ask my guests if there's ever if you have any advice that's been given to you, it's just so good. It could have come early in your career or late. It's just so good. You just find yourself sharing that with others. Anything that you would share?
Yes, this actually came during my time of doing some HR consulting and having clients. And if you've ever kind of stepped out of traditional HR and worked in client service, you know, it's a whole other environment for sure.
Mhm.
But one of my leaders in that situation told me not to give anyone the power to ruin my day. She said the challenges they create are about them and not about me. And again, like I told myself that every day because, you know, we would have difficult situations to work through, but I think that's so important because there are things in life or in your day that you can control, and there are things that you cannot. And so I think being able to sleep at night and, just know that you've done the best that you can is what's most important.
Don't give anyone the power to ruin your day. I love that because I've given people that power many
Yes.
times in my career. And oh man, I love that. I guarantee you there's going to be people writing that down. Hey, I want to ask you one last question here before I shift to it's time to accelerate. Because you mentioned something early in the show and I had put a little star by it to not miss this. And you mentioned, and I think Sherry had actually, you mentioned that she taught you the importance of networking.
Yes.
And the reason why I wanted to come back to it now was because as I learned your story and here you are, you're a high performer, doing great things. How important is networking now? Because early on it's important, right? Because, hey, I need to get to know somebody. I need to get a job. I need to do these different things. But as you get later in your career, you're so busy. That's one thing I've noticed from my performance. They get so busy. A lot of times it's harder to get out and network. Talk about networking for you today. How important is that? And is that still a priority?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think the pandemic changed a lot of things too, right? Because we got out of or at least I did, the habits of, going to networking events
Mm-hmm.
as before. And so it's definitely something that I would love to get back into. I think it's important because especially when you get in more challenging roles, more complex roles, you start to question, like, am I doing the right things?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's always someone ahead of you that can help you. And I do think it's important. Sometimes it's harder to find. That's what I've run into, I think, is making those connections of those that are ahead and can continue to kind of help and add value. And then on the flip side of that is making connections with those that are just starting or kind of behind, and how can I help them? I get a lot of invites on LinkedIn to connect. I think the thing that's hard though is there's no description of why that invite is coming my way. So I tend to be honestly a bit hesitant about that, because as we know, your brand is super important, and if I don't know someone personally, sometimes I'm hesitant to connect with them. But I think if someone's interested in doing that and they find someone in the HR community or just the business community that they think would add value, reach out and explain why. But no, I definitely feel like I can be better in both areas, and it has been top of mind lately. I think it is difficult, especially in a startup environment, to make time and have the space.
Yeah, that's so good. I have so many connections on LinkedIn. I don't even know who they are. Like, you connect and then, there's no follow-up. I love that. There's always people ahead to help you. And I didn't think about that at the time. I was thinking about networking. I love what you said. There's people there that are probably going through what you're going through or have gone through that can help you or validate or give you support or give you advice or whatever that is. But I didn't think about also, what a great opportunity for you to help others, because you remember what it was like coming out of college, trying to meet people. I was meeting with a CHRO in a Dallas company recently, and she talked about, somebody shared with her, there's these 3 stages. There's learn, earn, and return, right? First we're learning, and then we're go and get that job so we can earn. But then you get in a season of life where you need to return too. And that's networking can also give you an opportunity to do that as well, right?
True. I love that. I think that's great. Yes.
Yeah. This is so good. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I told you the time was going to fly. This has been so great. I'm going to shift to it's time to accelerate just with some fun facts for Misty. Hey, would you rather read a book or listen to a podcast?
That's a hard one because it depends on what it is, but I would say traditionally a book.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay. In one of my chapters in my book, I put great leaders are grateful leaders. I always like to ask this question. What are you grateful for?
Definitely grateful for the support and my friends and family. Yeah, definitely couldn't get through every day or every week without them.
Yeah, no question. I love that. And I'm grateful for you being on the show today, Misty. This is fantastic. Okay. So I heard about your 4 dogs. I'm wondering if it's going to be what energizes you outside the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely on my list. I have volunteered with local animal rescue. So 3 of them are
Mm.
rescues from, I volunteer with the 2 Zoo Rescue in DFW. And so 3 of them are from there. One of them is a foster fail. So, but love giving back in that area, and then just making connections again, both with people, and then also even with data. So like data insights is something that I love to make connections with, and that gives me energy. And how can I connect that to impact positive business results? So a little bit on the work side and a little bit on the personal side as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. This is fantastic. Okay. This is my last question. Probably one of my favorite questions. Misty, 10 years older is around the corner and she's knocking at your door and you are going to go answer that door. What's she going to say to you?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good one. I think definitely relax and enjoy the journey would be probably that advice. Because looking back, the things that were hard at the time are never as hard as they seem. So just enjoy it.
That's a wise 10 years older Misty Davis. I am so grateful for you being on the show today. Relax. That's my word here. Relax. Enjoy the journey. It's going to be so good. Oh my God. Hey, if somebody heard maybe something you shared today that they're like, you know what, I want to connect with Misty. Is there a way for them to connect?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, as I mentioned. Misty with an I, Davis HR is my LinkedIn. Like I said, if you're going to connect, send me a note so I know why. I also have my work email is Misty with an I.Davis@ElidaBeauty.com. So those are both great ways to connect with me.
Perfect. And I'll put those links in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Misty, and again, yes, definitely send her a note. Say, hey, I heard you on Life and Leadership Lane. Here's something you said that resonated with me or impacted me, or here's a question I have around that. And it makes a connection so much better. And so, Misty, I appreciate you so much for sharing your wisdom, coming on here. You have so much great energy, and I can't wait, to watch you continue the journey. And so I just want to say thank you. Appreciate your friendship.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it too.
Yeah, awesome. I cannot wait to share this. I'll talk to you later.